I'm here, I could buy license, but if you would like to make money, real money, if you could be a professional drawer, go to the French market or to US market. One comment to the previous meeting about European comics. My opinion is that we don't have something like European comics. The truth is that there is one Franco-Belgian empire in the comics which exports a lot of very often very good books to other countries, sometimes grab interesting artists. And there are some, there are some free planets, some colonies, bigger or less. Italy has its own production, like Bonelli production. In Nordic countries they have Moomins, for example. In Poland we have our titles. But this transfer of characters, transfer of series from these smaller planets to the center of the European comic civilization is not big. So of course this way for artists from Poland, Ukraine, Czech, even Italy is not easy probably. But we are doing it, we try to do it.
And that's the difference between Tomek and me, for example, because when I'm getting interesting proposition from Polish author, I'm telling him, give me more. Give me more and I will publish it, because of course he can go for foreign countries and try to find a publisher. But this publisher will tell him, well, change this and change this, because our readers need such a stories or such a perspective. And in Poland he can create freely. He can be, Polish artist.
So it's very, you would say your authors are looking at a very culturally specific.
Yes, but at the same time universal. When I was starting my adventure with publishing comic books, and I reached to David Bassler from Edition Moderne from Switzerland, because we wanted to publish Anna Sommer book and Tomasz old book. He told me, well, I'm very happy that you want to publish our artists, it's great. But remember, you have to publish your own Polish artists, because if you won't publish them, no one will be interested in publish them in foreign countries. So I think like it's a kind of for me responsible for publishing Polish artists, because it's hard enough to publish in Poland, and it's even harder to find a publisher abroad. The competition is huge. It's really huge.
Because it's very important to tell our stories, not somebody's stories. So only we will do that. No, our artists doing stories from our country, other countries.
And Tomek is telling that the Polish book market is bigger. Of course it is, but still average print run of book in Poland is right now 2,500. So print run of comic books aren't so smaller than those average
between 1,000 till 2,000 copies.
Yes, but the bestseller on the book market you could sell during the year in 200,000 copies. Okay, 100,000 copies. On the comic market, our bestseller Torgal we sell during 1.5 year in 20,000 copies. Yes. So and the Polish books probably we could say, of course, don't speak about numbers, but there is a few thousand copies, which is very often not enough for the creator. So it's complicated. We of course support Polish artists. Every 2 years we organize a competition for young artists for comics for children. And then we propose them to create a full album. We pay them more than it should be paid based on sale, So of course, we support these Polish artists also. But of course, it's not easy, and the market has to grow in the future to give to the artists the opportunity for surviving, for living on making comics.
But for example, one of that artists, that concourse which you published, Berenika, is here. Berenika, show yourself. She sells series for the children on Spanish market.
So I know from my festival, because I see this every year. So every year we have a new, fresh publishers in a festival. So this is also very important. So this is not stagnation. So the market is still growing. From my observation, but I'm not publisher, I'm only director of a festival.
At the actual festival, do you organize any kind of competition or promotion for new artists?
This is our role, so we organize every kind of fun promotion of Polish comics. We also trying to do this here and the other festivals. But in my opinion, the Polish market is in this time. This is not only a place for fantastic licenses from your countries. In this moment, we are the source of fresh ideas, of fresh titles, of new European comics. Probably in this moment unknown, but I think so soon the Polish comics, that will be very good proposition for your readers, and we waiting for this moment. So we invite you to check, to watch our propositions.
And from the slideshow, we can see there's a huge variety of styles and subjects being dealt with here. It's very,
this is completely market, complete proposition for all the groups, for children, for adults. So for me, this is a very strong and very important proposition for a European market, and we told you, but we started with a big European promotion. So this is a part of this activity, and I hope so soon your children will have on a desk the Polish titles. So.
And you're involved, of course, with the new Comics Centre. Can you tell us a little bit about what the plans are for the new Polish Centre of Comics in Łódź?
Yes, this is a first institution in Poland which is dedicated especially for comics, and this is very important moment, because that will be place for education, for catching the talents, and we have a lot of active ideas what we will do this. This is a topic for a completely other meeting, and I hope so. That will be also very important place in Poland, center of comics and international interactive narration, and we will start in 2020. And there will be moments, so we check our ideas, and for an institution of comics, of course, we have experience and knowledge from the other European institution which is dedicated for comics, but that will be only element of a comics market. We still need a very strong publishers at first. And we still need young authors, fresh ideas for new titles, for new strong propositions, for example, also for you.
I think one of the other developments that I observe in comics in different countries as their cultures develop, I mentioned the need for women to be very much involved writing and creating and consuming, but also it's also very good development when literary publishers decide to start including graphic novels in their lists. Do you think that's something that could happen in Poland? You have quite a strong literary publishing tradition in Poland. Have any literary houses, as in publishers, have they said we could start to publish some graphic novels, maybe translating them initially, but have they taken that step? And is that a step you would like to see happen?
We don't see it. Of course, there are some big book publishing houses which try with comics, but not too many, because money. You know, it's if they compare sales of books with sales of comics, they decided that they would like to publish more books. And another reason is that we conquest the market, and we are the winner.
You conquer the market, yes. I was going to bring up about Centrala being an important play. I mean, ideally Centrala would be Mika Zomka, the Centrala books. Am I getting that wrong? Centrala books.
What do you know? What do you want to know about Centrala?
But they are doing important stuff for comics as well, for Poland, I think, aren't they? Because Misha Zomka used to run the Poznań Literatura Festival, and now he's based in the UK.
Yeah, Michał took his activities, publishing activities, from Poland to London, and he's publishing books in Polish, English and Czech language right now. But he's choosing very, artistic avant-garde titles, so those print runs aren't impressive. Yeah, but
they're available in English, which is also an important step.
But in the last years, he focused on presenting not really Polish books in English language, but from Balkans and the artists from other parts of Europe. So it's not too many Polish titles from Centrala right now. I think what the Polish market needs right now, it's Polish hit, Polish bestseller, because when you look at the markets in the United States, in England, France, Italy, at the top of the best-selling lists, there are always local authors. Apart, of course, of Harry Potter or such things. But at the end of the year, when you are looking at the bestseller list, on the top of that is always something local, which attracts readers, viewers from that country. So what we are need is a big title which bring new readers to that medium, and the title should be coming from Poland, I think. Because we can, of course, read and have fun with Asterix, Lucky Luke, Torga. It's great comic books, great entertainment, comic entertainment, but we need something more than that.
And there's certainly, not to get too political at the moment, but I mean there's plenty to deal with in Poland politically at the moment as well. Other comic artists dealing with that, with the issues and debates in Polish society at the moment.
Yes, of course, they are trying to make a statement. We have some books here which are dealing with this. For example, Poland is Master of Poland. Such a book is here about the contemporary situation in Poland. It's a satirical book. But it's that Polish artists are talking about situation of the place they were living. So that's the.
And those kind of very local stories can actually become quite interesting.
One of our best sellers in the last 2 years was a book called Film, National Production, and it was a story about doing a big national historical blockbuster in Poland, and it's a comedy really about how to make a big historical movie in Poland. So it was really, we sold it about 2,000 and a half during that time, which is a really nice number for the book. You can open it.
And have there been any adaptations of Polish comics into movies or TV shows? I mean, recently that have been successful?
There are few titles in the works, into production. There are a few series, animated series for kids. There are feature animation based on classical Polish comic books. There is we sold the option for 2 movies, contemporary comic books, one about death metal band, which is very universal, and one of our best sellers, 3,000 copies sold already, still counting. And we sold book option to the book Wauma, it's called Wuma in English. It's an international co-production, film co-production, Germany, Poland, Denmark and France. And we sold that book 8,000 copies in Poland. It's quite a nice number for an independent publishing house. 8,000 copies.
I think, are we going to wrap? We have some questions from the audience. I think we're due to wrap up about 5. Any questions for our publishers?
Do you have questions
from Poland?
When you said your market collapsed, was that because it was published and distributed by the party? Yes.
Yes.
It's collapsed because in the time of communism, comics was only big part, very small pop culture market in our country. That was only communist pop culture, where is comics, the propaganda movies, the propaganda TV series. And when the communists finished, we seen all kinds of the comics, books, video games, movies. So that was the open to the new full color wars for the Polish audience. So the comics stopped being very important for them.
And it was, you know, generally change of organization of the society during communism. All publishing houses, all newspapers, or distributors or bookstores belong to government. And after the change, we started build private, capitalistic, free market. You know, private publishers started operation. These old forms had to collapse, you know, because they were not effective, economically effective. So it was general change
important for them.
of the society. You know, I understand.
What's really important, that's during the communism era we had only been able to read and watch a very small number of books, films. We don't have access to films from Europe, United States, whatever. And after that collapsing of communism era, suddenly we got everything. Movies, books, Maclean, Ludlam, Forsyth, everything. So the readers and audience wasn't interested in Polish new ones. They wanted to read what they heard for years.
You know, another example, I was science fiction fan when I was a teenager. I'm still science fiction fan. And in the 80s, yearly, 2, 3, maybe 5 books with Anglo-Saxon science fiction have been published in Poland. 5 per year. In year 91, it was 700 of books with Anglo-Saxon science fiction, you know? So it's a difference, you know? So of course, the market for Polish science fiction collapsed for a few years because these writers were covered by this import, you know?
In 89, we have like 100 newspapers in Poland, in all country, local newspapers and another. After that, in the next year, that was 5,000 newspapers.
So, given the fact that the market started from a base that was distorted by the society that was dominating it at the time, the communism, I'm having a tough time when you talk about your stories, because I watch this. There's one there, you know. It's a throwback. It's a throwback to, you know, Auschwitz, to war, to, you know, and obviously even in the West, people understand the hardship that Poland, Czechoslovakia, all of those countries underwent. Do you think you can sell that to the West? Or are you, when you're talking about your stories, is that something totally different?
It's interesting, very interesting question, especially in the context of the previous meeting, because when you see, let's say, bande dessinée, historical bande dessinée, you find a lot of comics about history of France, of course, history of England, US, China, Mongol Empire, Indonesia, Japan, of course. But you could count on the fingers on one hand bande dessinée about history of Poland or Czech, or even this part of Europe had very interesting history, different than west part of Europe. Why? Don't ask me, ask French publishers. And on our market, historical comics are popular, especially that this type of comics is supported, really often supported by public institutions. Sometimes it means that they are a little bit too new propaganda now, but we have, let's say, Museum of Warsaw Rising, organize competitions for comics about Warsaw Rising. Museum of the Second World War in Gdańsk published comics about episodes from the Second World War. On this screen you saw covers of comics published by Auschwitz Museum about situation in Auschwitz, you know. So yes, this kind of comics has strong position on our market.
And you have to remember that we have as a nation rewrite our history from the scratch also, because the communism history was quite different than this real history. It was written from the perspective of propaganda, from communism, the government.
I'm thinking of Marzina Sova, the Marzi. Marzi, that was an amazing find that published by Vertigo. DC Vertigo published a really nice edition of that. And that, if you haven't read anything in English about the Polish experience, that I thought was a really accessible, about the author's childhood. Just a wonderful book. And there's more, of course, that hasn't been put into English. It's gone on for much longer.
There is one interesting example also. The Timof is Polish publisher of French comics about Irena Sendler, the person who saved Jewish children during Second World War. So, you know, we need time for it, you know. The creators on the West have to have time for reading books about this part of the world, you know, probably. And maybe they will find new interesting original stories.
And in Poland, for example, politics still arguing that last year there was Irena Sendlerowa year, but politics still arguing why Irena Sendlerowa, for example. So I'm very excited that some artists from outside of Poland were interested in the story of Irena Sendlerowa, and everybody know that very important person for Polish history in the world now.
I think we probably ought to wrap up now, but I think before we wrap up, we wanted to have a moment just to discuss briefly the very tragic death of Bartek Pedro Orent-Niedzielski, who was very involved with the Łódź Festival and also involved in Strasbourg, the European Comics Festival in Strasbourg. He was the first victim of the shootings in Strasbourg back in December, and we're all very remembering him, particularly now in Angoulême, because he was very active for many years in Angoulême as well, and worked with the festival. I mean, whether you'd like to say a word, Adam, about Bartek in memory, but for me personally, he was a really inspiring guy. I met him for the first time in Łódź. He loved European cultures, loved languages, loved comics, of course. And he was intelligent and really sensitive guy, and we're much regretted, a really tragic loss for the world. But I hope that all of us basically are going to live on, he lives on through what we do, I think, hopefully. Adam, you remember working with Bartek too.
For us, this is a very great tragedy. For Polish people, they still don't believe in a situation like this, because practically the terrorism didn't exist in our country. This is for us. We are first time we are very close of this problem, but we remember Bartek like a very important person for us. Just like I said, the part of us still didn't believe in this situation. So we need a time. We need a long time to understand what's happening in Strasbourg, and I think so we should remember about him, not only so he is a victim of terrorist types, because we should remember him because he was a very great man, great fan of the comics, and great voluntarist, because he few years he decides so he will come to Łódź, and he will be supported our festival because he wants. Just because he wants, and
he believes in it.
Yes, and we must believe so. It was a last victim of terrorism from our country, from our society of comics artists and fans, and I will say nothing more.
We dedicate this panel as a tribute in many ways to Bartek. He will be very happy to know that we're talking about Polish comics. We can also mention briefly that there is going to be a prize being awarded at the Strasbourg Festival, which is on in the first weekend in June in Strasbourg. It's a Prix Bartek, which will be given to the best work dealing with tolerance, with basically optimistic view of society, reflecting that through comics. And we've also said that if you happen to be in Strasbourg on Saturday, there's going to be a celebration, a tribute, a homage to Bartek Nielselski at Europe House in Strasbourg. But I invite you to, these books are definitely all coming to go back.
You are not leaving this place if those books are still here, so take them. Thank you very much.
I'm taking this one. This is by the author we were talking about. They're tremendous. Yeah. So thank you very much for coming. I'm hoping maybe next year we can do Polish Comics 101, and we can report back on where we are with Polish Comics, and maybe next exhibition, and maybe also we can see some more about the centre as well. But thank you very much for coming, and let's celebrate a century of Polish comics. Thank you so much. And drinks. We have some drinks. Help yourself to some drinks and comics. Thank you for coming.